Hello everyone and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host Matthew Head, and in this episode I'm talking to Ekua Cant. She is a career coach specialising in neurodiversity. She focuses on underrepresented talent, retention and attraction in corporate sector. Also provides one-to-one coaching for senior women from diverse backgrounds. She has a book, Be Your No.1 Cheerleader, which charts her journey to entrepreneurship and focuses on how she struggled with burnout and shifting her mind to a growth mindset. As always, I will post links to her coaching company as well as the book and other things we talk about in the show notes, which will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Welcome to the show, Ekua.
Oh, what a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries at all. So I was having a skim through your profile to have a look what we could start talking about, and I come across this thing called Drink Spot. Craft drinks for office workers. And this kind of piqued my interest that there was a business model that meant you could drop craft beer off to people at work. How did that idea come up?
Yes. Well, you know what? I was too early before my time. If I had known that it was going to be a global health pandemic and everyone was going to be working from home and wanting to have drinks delivered to their home for team bonding, I would have started, later rather than sooner. But these things. But back to how I actually began and why I thought that was a great idea is because people do obviously like to celebrate, and obviously in the UK, drinking is a big part of that celebration culture. But yes. For me, I wanted to create a drinks experience that was more inclusive and had an interesting range of drinks. So yes, obviously beer was one of the drinks that was included, but actually also really nice, non-alcoholic drinks or low alcoholic drinks, and sort of, things that make people feel like included and respected and not just the afterthought. So what I noticed is a lot of companies had great socials, and they come along and they get all their sort of the beers and the wines in, and then they just kind of dump in a fizzy drink at the end, or a really random orange juice or some kind of juice. Exactly. It's a bit I feel like we can do a little bit better than that. I was like, so what is better than that? I was like, actually, there's lots of really amazing artisan craft drinks makers who are making really tasty and healthy and nice drinks that people don't know about. What if I was to be their middleman, or be that person that would advertise their drinks for them, so they didn't have to actually do that work? I would be the face. As long as they give me an amazing wholesale price, then I would do it.
Of course, yeah.
then I would do the advertising for them. Not to give them.
I like the market niche. When I first read it, I was like, I'll go work, but you're totally right. I've been to work socials that start at 3:00 in the afternoon, and there is the choice of beer and alcohol-free beer, and as you say, the token Coke and some bottles of water and a couple of other sparkly things that aren't alcohol to keep going. But they kind of let you to the end of the day. So nice idea. And of course, being London-based, I imagine that's super popular as well for a piece.
Absolutely. Because the London obviously was quite thriving and still is. Well, obviously people have decided about working from home and in offices, and there's slightly less office real estate than there was, but that people are still going into offices. I think they'll always remain a staple of office life, but to varying degrees, I would say. But I think that essentially, drinks in offices is something that's here to stay.
I think so. And having never worked in London, but knowing some friends that do, I think it's a little bit of a culture thing for an after work drink and stuff in a London office. So yeah, I like this quite a creative idea. And I thought it amused me, the logo as well. I thought that was quite cool. A bit of sort of, dynamic thinking, in which may be born out of your dyslexic thinking, was where I was thinking that idea probably got popped out to your head at some point.
Well, now you talk about that, actually, the actual idea behind that logo was the fact is that I was on a quest to find a drinks serving robot. And yes, Matt, there is such a thing as a drinks serving robot. And I found a company that does provide you with that. They are called Robots of London. And they have amazing, wide range of different sort of robotics and all kinds of small, large robotic arms to like full-size robots to mini robots. But basically, they have a really cute robot that was exactly what I was looking for. A robot that sadly does not make drinks, but it does serve them and it does speak to you. So you can program it to like interact with you and have conversations. Really cool.
Oh, nice. So it just rolls along the office with the drinks tray in front of it and you go, did you give it a name? Do people get to give it a name? And you go like, I don't know, Samuel, go get me a beer, and the robot goes off or something. You
can absolutely like call it whatever you like. You know, I mean, it had a brand name, obviously, but you know, you could give it a name. Yes.
Brilliant. Well, that's good fun. It's like quite a lot of dyslexic people. You clearly come up with business ideas of how to put things together. I want to take it back to the beginning now. When did you find out you were dyslexic?
Gosh, so it's been a lifelong endeavor, but I didn't actually, get a formal assessment until I was actually a teenager and sort of going off to university and sort of like after my GCSEs. It's one of those things that like I would have always had difficulty in sort of writing and spelling and reading and that sort of thing, as well as actually also in mathematics as well. So yes. So I just actually preface this segment of the conversation by saying that I have both dyslexia and dyscalculia, so two Ds.
Oh yes,
both go hand in hand for me. But also, I think that it is quite common with people with dyslexia to have numerical challenges or difficulties. But it just so happens that I also really have a challenge in the area of mathematics too. At the point when I was going to university, it probably is still relevant now, but you know, the entry requirement was around like maths and science. And you know, also being able to recall things and write things and sort of like do all that great stuff. It was apparent that I may not be actually be able to go to university if we don't kind of make sure that one, they're going to accept me in there, and that was around more mathematics than dyslexia. But then the byproduct of that was actually I can actually do with some study support skills that will help me holistically to survive in the university and be able to sort of like go forward and do all the stuff that I need to do in that space.
Yes. So so clearly you managed to get the sort of diagnosis. What measures were then put in place that allowed you to hit the grades to be able to get into university? Because clearly dyscalculia is really tricky with getting a maths level up.
Wow. So that was, I guess, it is what it is with that one. Like, no amount of tutoring, unfortunately, could bring up my predicted or my actual grade that actually could with GCSE mathematics. It is what it is. But in terms of like study skills and support, what was really helpful was around screen reading and helping me to kind of like pick up mistakes. Having a device back in the day, I think it was called like one of those a mini disc player.
Oh yeah, mini disc players.
There you go. Yeah.
I remember them.
One of those jobs used to like record and make sure I can remember, because part of dyslexia, in some instances, it's about memory recall, and just having that access to recording things was really helpful and useful. And getting that extra time though, because obviously processing and being able to kind of like think takes a little bit longer. That was really helpful in terms of being able to do exams, and also in some instances with some assignments which were sort of more lengthy rather than shorter pieces.
Yes, definitely. And the old mini display where the iPod killed that pretty darn quick. So were you trying to do anything before? Were you just not sure what was going on? And then you just like, right, we need to get into university. And then all of this sort of stuff comes on and it's like a light bulb goes on. And you just studied a degree in politics. So I imagine that takes a lot of listening and reading things through to kind of work out what's going on. Did you find it all really helped with your university and took the pressure off compared to your school days when you didn't know you were dyslexic?
I think I found it like a lot easier sort of like to manage and to kind of like to navigate. I think it was like, oh, okay, great. I don't have to like worry and explain. There's a sort of like queued up and like ready to like, happily like provide that kind of support, which was like really good and really helpful in both the dyslexia and dyscalculia space. And it also just gave me that sort of like that peace of mind that, it is something that I can manage. I don't need to sort of worry about that. And the thing that I would like to also mention is like dyslexia and anything else is a spectrum. So, my dyslexia isn't necessarily the most severe, but it is still, nonetheless there. And what was actually really helpful was because I chose an essay-based subject, and I do like to write. And ironically, one of the things that you'll find out about me is that I like long words. I love interesting words. But
okay.
I am very grammar is not a strong point. So
right. Okay.
What was interesting was they're like, most of my, I guess, dyslexia could be disguised. Not that I was trying to disguise it, but it almost looked like typos. But what sort of like, I guess, with the red flags, some of the other people who are like, her writing seems a little bit, I was always very long-winded, and I never used to know how to use, still to this day, how to use punctuation properly. So the commas, the semicolons, all the rest of it. I'm happily there writing for my life, and they're like, this sentence is like a paragraph. Stop it.
Well, that's really interesting. You enjoyed the long words. So how are you grappling with the spelling of the long words and things like that? Did you just enjoy them and you used them in language and then you simplify them down to a page? Because that's something what I'm guilty of. I use a long word in normal conversation and use its really basic derivative in a thing. But how did you find that for yourself?
Yeah, for me, because like I like other people is I like to be sort of verbal and auditory. So I like to talk and I like to sort of share my ideas, obviously. So many of them. I know the world's not ready for me. But I know one of the great things about that is like, as much as I like long words, I'm not always necessarily fond of using them like in writing like prose, but I do still like to use the ones that I think most express what I want to say. But I think for me, the great thing is the spell check is so good because it just helps you to recognize that I'm like, I know this word. And then I write it down. I'm like, that is not working for spell check. It does not agree with me. It does not recognize the word. I'm like, how did I know? Like, I definitely wrote it right. And they're like, no, okay.
Yeah. I've had many a falling out spell check. Like, no, I'm close enough. You can get it now. And it's like, no. I'm so far off it when I've worked out what the actual spelling is that it had no chance. Did you ever use speech-to-text programs as well, or were you mostly sort of typing by hand?
Yes, I was mostly, I guess, typing by hand. And I guess what I learned to do is like my own shorthand.
Okay.
So yeah, I know this is a good thing though. Like obviously, like back in the day, like shorthand was a real thing. But you can actually obviously create your own shorthand because no one has to read it apart from you. But the key thing here is to be able to read your own shorthand. Because sometimes you forget with some of these short-term memory issues.
Yeah. It's like I've just written it all wrong, but I understand it, and then me tomorrow doesn't understand what I wrote the day before.
Exactly.
Yes, I've done that lots of times. I'll work this out later. No, I won't. So did you have like your own running dictionary of? Yeah, because actual shorthand is its own almost miniature language, isn't it? The PAs and people do it to an art form. But do you have your shorthand dictionary somewhere lying around to make sure that you remembered all your abbreviated words?
Well, no, it wasn't necessary. So what I did was not necessarily create my own shorthand. So I sort of like basically like wrote things in such a way that hopefully I would remember and understand, but then at least prompt me to remember what it is I was trying to communicate. So at least if I hadn't completely written it out, or I just like read it in a rush, and like because no one has to know like if it's incorrect if you're writing it, as long as you're going to type it up in the future at some point. You just have to have it down so that you can then reformat it and sort of articulate it. And I guess what I'm interesting about that is I think a lot of people would really be amazed between what goes down as a note and what actually comes out the other end, and because it's very different.
Yes, I can imagine. It's note taking is a different thing, isn't it, really? But there's a lot of processing that goes on post the note taking process before it comes back out to something coherent. And I imagine when you were doing dissertations and stuff, and having supervisors and other people read through it to help with all of that as well.
Yes, I mean, definitely. I think for them, it's more like trying to they try to polytrate this so we can breathe and so we don't get brain ache.
Yes. You're not a fan of a full stop.
I try, but I love a good long sentence. Not a lie.
Yeah. What is that point in life when you suddenly found out there's a semicolon and you just use it far too much because it looks kind of like what you should be doing?
Exactly.
Cool. And then you graduated with your degree in politics and moved into project management and civil service. I noticed you work at Whitehall, so quite a governmental job. Now, having only ever done an assessment centre to work in the civil service, there is a fair bit of reading and paperwork involved. Did you find you had to relearn some of your dyslexic coping strategies or strategies you use to go into the world of work, particularly that area with the civil service?
Well, I think what I would say about that is, I didn't go into the sort of fast stream because that's where you have to do the assessment centre. I definitely failed that, which is cool. But I did enter the normal mainstream civil service, and that was fine. And I think that for me, really utilising technology and becoming that person that was hot for technology to help me to create the systems and processes that would allow me to do all the things that I need to be doing was really super helpful. I think that helped me to kind of stay on top of things and to kind of be organised, and for people not to really notice actually, unless I actually told them. Oh
wow. Well, that was cool. So by that point, you're such a well-oiled machine with it that people didn't notice. Determined, yes.
Well, no. I think what they did notice is when you're first learning how to note take for official meetings, and then you realise that what they say verbatim is not what you actually need to write in the note.
Oh, interesting, really?
No.
Okay. Is this a lot of government officials we're talking about?
No. It's because, obviously, what they say verbatim is not how they want it to be written, as in for official record, right? So I think I have to learn that and think, but be oh, okay, but you said X, Y, Z, but you don't actually want me to write X, Y, Z. You want me to say actually like this. I'm oh, good to know.
Blimey, that must get your head in a spin for a little while, doesn't it?
Yes. But, I became very good at civil service ease. It's a whole new language, and it has its own constructs and formats and vocabulary that by the time I left, I was like, wow, that was good. I completely learned how to write in a whole different way.
Oh, okay. I see. So this is very much its own internal language and structure for official documents and things like that. How did you find learning that, considering obviously language is not necessarily your strong point anyway in terms of writing it down? How did bolting on more things, how did you cope with that?
Yeah, I think that initially it was learning foreign language and it was a little bit alien. But like I said, I do like to embrace long words and not say that they're particularly long words, but there are certain sort of words and vocabulary that they do love. So, getting to learn and find out what they are and seeing past examples of things, of documents and notes. Sounds like, oh, okay, cool. I can learn this. But again, it did take some time to learn and to sort of train myself to write in that way, because because they tell you to go to the meeting and to take the notes, and you're literally okay, he said this, he said that, he said this, and he said that. And then when you see someone else do that, you're like, but that has not happened. I was there. And they're like, yes, I know, that's what happened. But actually, we don't need to hear like what was actually said, like word for word. We actually need to sort of like get to the point. We need to like, strip out. In fact, you've got to be your own kind of editor. You've got to basically like imagine that this is like going to be on like TV, or it's going to be somewhere where it needs to be like crisp and like everyone needs to be like really super clear like what happened, even if it didn't happen necessarily in that order or in that way, but that is what needs to be the result of the writing that you're going to produce.
So it's a skill in itself to be able to filter a very long conversation to a very concise thing. Because wow, yeah, that's going to be something. Yeah, do you just try and retain it in your head, and you just, as you say, you just learn it through how to filter it down properly?
No, I think it's one of the things where like it's about actually like writing like everything in your notes, and then knowing that actually some things do not need to be included, and that's a process of learning discernment. Because trust me, like when I first started the process, I wasn't always like discerning in the way that they might have hoped I would have been.
Okay.
No, that doesn't need to be in the note. Okay.
Lots of editing. In my mind, you've had to edit all the colourful language out as well. Brilliant. You had quite a lengthy career with the civil service, but what led you to take a bit of a left turn, starting your own companies post that?
Yeah, so I mean, whilst I was in the civil service, I was always sort of like dabbling in entrepreneurship and like going to meetups and sort of like taking an interest. But, I guess for the longest time, I wasn't prepared to sort of like, go all in, commit to full-time entrepreneurship. It seemed kind of like scary and kind of like, why do you do that? But actually, I really did like the whole like energy and the scene and the kind of like the creative people that I was meeting, and the kind of like, being in a place where people were like experimenting, trying different ideas, and wanting to do, kind of niche things, or like not necessarily mainstream things. So I was like, that was pretty appealing. But I think in the beginning, I didn't think that it would be potentially sustainable. And then I realized that actually I just need to, test it, try it. And then, I guess I decided to, before I quit my civil service job, I was doing project management contracting and sort of like doing that for a bit, and thought, can save for a bit of money and then give it a go and see what that's like. And then, no harm, no foul.
Nice. Yes, I suppose having the contractor project manager role gives you something to roll back into if you need to take 6 months and save some more pennies up. Okay. And you sort of have done various businesses, and then sort of shifted into more career coaching things. So what come first, the career coaching or the book? I was trying to work that out early on.
Well, the career coaching, but an epic failure. So the company drinking spot, which you were talking about, that led me to coaching, because basically, sadly, with all of my ideas, if I stuck to the one like main core business of that business, which was obviously like selling drinks and being the retailer, it could have been great. But because I was, super creative and really wanted to make this a company of the future, I was like, no, let's not only have, buying drinks and me selling them, let's also have an events arm. So we can like, provide you with like waiters and like give you the whole experience. Right. And then I was like, we've got to have the drink selling robot, like hire them out, and all this stuff. So it became like a little bit unmanageable, and too many arms, not enough focus on one particular core business, which was sad. But it led me to like reevaluate and kind of like basically crash and burn and have a massive episode of burnout, and to reflect and think about what do I want to do with my life. And I was like, one of the main streams of my career has been sort of like coaching and mentoring. And as a project manager, you do a lot of that. Like, you're about helping teams to deliver, you're about helping people to be get the best out of them to make the projects work, and kind of problem solving and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, actually, coaching is really what I like. It's my passion, but like, oh no, I don't want to be the face of my own business. Robots are cool. I can't just stick a robot out there in my face.
They're coaching robots, yes.
So it was just basically trying to get over that imposter syndrome and kind of like, can this really work? And I was like, you know what, let me test this out for a year and then see how we go. And then, well, I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, but particularly, did your coaching originally start with specialising in neurodiversity, or had you realised partway along that actually this is a great sort of niche, how to niche it down into that?
Yeah, so it didn't originally start with neurodiversity, and I would say I'm not actually a neurodiversity coach because there are other brilliant people in that space. So let me just sort of clarify what it is that I am doing. So my coaching originally was pure career coaching, helping people, get jobs, helping them with their mindset, helping them with interviewing, all the rest of it, all that just general good bread and butter kind of stuff. And then I kind of like evolved into more sort of like helping people with their mindset, their thinking about how they're approaching, finding jobs and getting jobs and sort of like job-related activities. And then it sort of morphed into sort of more like actually like strategizing and advising on their career. And then finally, like the newest arm of it is this neurodiversity piece. And that is like, my book is obviously called Be Your No.1 Cheerleader.
Yep.
And that is all about like being your authentic self, putting your best self out there. And I just came to reflect this summer really about, what does that mean for me as a person? I'm all out there, like telling everyone else to do all that stuff. And then I'm like, I'm actually really applying it to myself. And then I came to this point where I was like, actually, perhaps I'm not like doing it to the fullest that I could be doing it. And this is where the neurodiversity came into play. I was like, actually, that is part of my life. I'm it's something that I want to embrace more and something that I want to like share a bit more about. In fact, one of the interesting stories about writing the book was because obviously I write in a special way. Like I can write fairly well, but like, I have odd grammar and it's special. But then not only that, I straddle both American and British English. So again, that is fun too, because not everyone knows this.
Yes, it is slightly different. Yep.
It is slightly different. And so like when I was finding someone to edit my book, I had to find someone that is going to not be distressed by both American and British English and strange grammar.
Did you have to pick which branch of English you wanted to use with your editor?
Well, I was like, I am going to be that person that's going to blend, and you're just going to have to like work with me on it. And what's funny about that is like, because obviously like some parts I've used like, Americanisms, and other parts I've used Britishisms. When it came to some of the idioms, she was like, that is not an American idiom. I'm like, I know, but I'm using a British idiom here. And she's like, I don't get it.
Oh, that is great. I like that. I hadn't thought of idioms being a problem between the British and American English. Yeah. Dropping U's and stuff was what I was expecting, but great. So you just throw out this random, very specific British thing, and it's just like, no.
She's like, do you really want to say that? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yes. I've spent a bit of time in the States, and it's funny how you don't realise stuff like making a mistake of ordering chips and getting not what I expected. Things like that. So, as we're on the book, where did the sort of genesis of that book come from? Because you do like writing, but very long sentences. But you thought, I'm going to grapple a book here, and it's going to be about self-belief. Did you have a bit of negative self-belief linked with your dyslexia up to that point?
So I would say that dyslexia, both dyslexia and dyscalculia have been interesting. But I think for me, dyslexia, because my dyslexia isn't as severe, it's quite moderate and sort of like, sort of fairly easy to manage.
Yeah.
Dyscalculia has been sort of like the real like battle, the real sort of like forefront of, sort of trying to keep everything together. So that is something that sort of has been more of a challenge to sort of like manage and deal with. Whereas dyslexia has been one of those things where people like don't actually believe I have dyslexia, because I'm like, I know how to hold a pen. I can write, But it's those people who are really interested in grammar who know straight away.
The grammaristas, yes.
Yeah, they know, and the people that are like, because obviously I would make some typos, but typos can look just like typos, but there's a regular amount of typos, and then there's dyslexic typos, and there are people who know between the difference between a dyslexic typo and a normal typo, and that's quite the skill, I have to say. The difference between those two kinds of typos, because who knows? A typo is a typo, but no, it's not. Or a missing letter, or I'm like, I definitely wrote all the letters in there, and then you click the post thing, and you're like, oh no, I did not.
Yeah, the infamous red squiggly line comes in. Yes. But what gave you the idea to write a book about? I guess being your number one cheerleader is really about building one's self-belief, isn't it, and how to improve your own self-perception. So were you struggling with that beforehand, and that's what gave you the idea to kind of write a book to help yourself out of it?
I think for me, one of the things that I noticed during the sort of like, my book was a lockdown project. Cool. Yeah, so I wrote the book in 2020. One of the things that I sort of recognized and sort of like took for granted until the pandemic was, I'm quite a optimistic and quite positive person, and I have a good mindset, and I realized that not everyone has that, and it doesn't come naturally to most people. And I found it really interesting to kind of see how people reacted to sort of having to be more creative about the way that they live, and adjusting to it being a very strange time, and all the rest of it. And I just found that actually how people think and their perception of what is possible and what they can do is a real differentiator about how they feel about what's going on, and how they're able to sort of approach and sustain in their life. Because I found that a lot of people had a lot of trouble trying to see how they could just change what they were doing. I mean, yes, they had to obviously stay at home and for some time when we were in that period. But I'm like, well, you can, for example, people will say, oh, I can't exercise, I can't, go to the gym, whatever. I'm like, you can still walk up and down your stairs. You can still do chair exercises. You can still watch a video on YouTube. I'm just like, can you not see that? And they're like, no, the world has changed. I can literally sit on my sofa and be all doom and gloom. I was like, how can you do that? Really?
Yeah.
So it just struck me that people were very I guess affected by what they were seeing and what they were sort of imbibing into their mind, and I was like, well, that's not happening for me. Maybe I need to go out there and kind of try and help people to kind of get a different perspective, help them to see the opportunity and possibility. And yes, obviously I acknowledge it was a very difficult time, but I think for me, just not getting sucked into the doomsday sort of constant cycle. And I think it was, really prevalent in some people's thinking and the way of being, but also in the entrepreneur space, I think what was helpful for me to be able to do was to help people to think about what can they do that they're not utilizing. Because obviously, as a career coach, that is my main thing. And so I found it really helpful to just kind of be out there and to be it's really awful, and I don't envy you, or I don't discount the fact that literally you can't be a musician, or you can't be a performer, or whatever it is. But you still have other skills that you can utilize. Whether it's in marketing, whether it's in recording stuff and all that stuff. But I think that just understanding the fact that people were paralyzed by what they were seeing just really made me realize how I could help people to sort of move beyond that. Obviously they need to take their time to feel how they feel and go through that process. But once they're able to sort of see beyond that, to be able to be forward thinking and forward moving, and to be continually helping themselves to kind of adapt and to change. And I think that was what prompted me to write the book, because I realized that wasn't that came naturally to me. Someone who's got lots of ideas and was always trying to find different ways to produce and work on different things, that it's not something that everyone finds quite as natural as me.
Yes, I see. So interesting. So not necessarily self-help for you, but really a great way of driving other people's perception forwards. It was quite easy in lockdown to go, well, I can't go to the gym. I would just sit on the couch and eat far too much food. And it takes a fair bit of self-discipline to then pull yourself out of that and start thinking about other things to do, particularly if you're on And some people are off work, signed up work for months, weren't they, where they were on the scheme where they got paid for not going to work because all the places are closed during the COVID. You could just get into a right funk with it.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think for me, one of the things that I wanted to share in the book, which wasn't originally part of that, is this whole thing about like, whilst I'm optimistic and forward looking, is about mental health, because burnout is something, because I'm really like on the go and doing lots of stuff. It's something that I have to sort of be mindful of and really manage. And, you know, when I was thinking about this, I was like, yeah, I'm really excited to like write all about all the stuff about how to kind of like keep yourself sort of growing and thriving with all the things. And I was like, should I actually talk about like the darker side? I'm like, no, yes, I need to spend a moment talking about like, you know, what does happen when it falls apart, how difficult that can be. But, you know, how even if that does happen to you, that, you know, it is real, and there are steps that you can take to sort of manage it and to kind of like be aware of it. And also, you know, try to, you know, put in place things that will help you to kind of like come off that cycle or that wheel, because, you know, it does sometimes take that self-awareness to kind of like recognize it and to realize that it's you who have to actually, change the way that you're behaving in order for you to not like get into that sort of mental state or that sort of like, place of exhaustion, or, you know, just not being able to do what it is that you want to be doing out there.
Yeah, I could see that. So how did you personally identify you burnt yourself out? Because it sounded like the drink spot was what really was the catalyst for that. And what did you do for yourself to get out of that sort of dark place, I guess?
Yeah, it was, you know, I spent a lot of time lamenting, you know, it was like something that was really dear to me, because how I started that business was like it was a business that me and my husband were like was part of, and like, you know, it started off in a really joyous and happy way, and then for it to sort of like fail and come apart, and for everything to kind of like, you know, crash and burn, it was quite a upsetting and intense time. But, you know, it gave me pause to realize that, you know, we only do have one life, and actually we need to kind of like really think about like what can we be doing other than the things that we think we should be doing or we're doing, because, you know, it's something that we can do. It may not be necessarily our passion or our thing, or, you know, it might be that, you know, from the particular like background or family that we have, that it might have been suggested to us, but we need to like step back from that, you know, as some of an adults, think about, you know, really what is it that I you know, want to do, what can I what am I capable of doing, and what will really, like, you know, when I come to my ultimate final day, I'm gonna be like, yes, I did this, you know, and I'm glad that I tried to do this particular thing. And for me, it was really about that coaching space, about that really helping others to self-improve, as well as keeping on that journey myself, because, you know, in coaching, it's a continual journey. You know, it's something that you have to continually work at. It's not like one and done. And I think that's the thing that sometimes people forget, like self-improvement, like going to the gym. It doesn't just, you know, stay firm, or doesn't just stay, working if you don't actually practice or have that habit.
Yes, it's turning up over a long time is more important than a crazy big workout on one day, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. You mentioned your career coaching quite a bit, and I think we've touched on it a few times, but what sort of things do you do when somebody comes to you for career coaching? How do you kind of kick things off with them? Just kind of hypothetically walking through sort of the early stages of it, really.
Yeah, so I have like an intake questionnaire, and it kind of asks them, you know, where are they now, and what are they doing, what are their aspirations and their goals. But importantly, asking them, you know, like, what is something that has happened to them that may be something that's unpleasant, or something that, you know, sort of following them around, but they may not necessarily want to kind of like deal with, or to kind of like, you know, go there. I'm like, well, we need to go there first before we can actually move forward. So please come first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think before because it's really tempting for people to like be like, yes, I'm ready for coaching, and for them want to like go to do meet their goals, and I'm like, no, we can't do that, because we have to like lay the ground, prepare ourselves before we can actually go forward. And part of the preparation is going to places which may not be comfortable or may not be fun places, but we have to do that exploratory work, and that sort of understand how is that sort of affecting what it is that we're doing and how we are approaching what we're wanting to get or what we're not getting. Because a lot of the times people are like, but I've tried 110 ways to get my career goal. And I'm like, well, it's probably because you haven't dealt with this thing in the corner, which no one talk about.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, sort of burying it a little bit, or not wanting to air dirty laundry. I could see that. Yeah, it's interesting how that's sort of becoming an anchor, I guess, almost to people's careers.
Yeah, and I think that there is a part where I talk to people about if they have had particular really serious incidents that have happened to them. It might not be necessarily related to their career, but things in their personal and family life. Those things will also affect how they are going forward in their career. And sometimes it may be that they don't actually need coaching, career coaching at this moment in time. It might be that they need to actually have therapy, or they might need to really work and deal with a specific trauma or incident or something that is deeply sort of anchored into how they are and who they're being and where they want to go to before they can actually undertake their coaching journey. Because I'm very clear that I am not a therapist. I am a coach, and there's a very different line between a coach and a therapist. And whilst we do talk about uncomfortable issues in coaching, I by no means I know what the line is, and when I let people unpack some of their issues, I am very clear to them. This is a therapy type thing. You need to go see someone else. You can come back to me, but I'm not going to be that person that kind of takes you on a false journey, because I know that if you have not actually dealt with these more pressing and prior existing issues fundamentally around something that's a core part of your being, then you will not be able to move forward in your career.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think I do wonder how many people get to high places because of something bad's happened to them, and they just overcompensate to the point where they've ended up hitting the top and then have a panic. And other people where it's like an anchor and slows them right down at the other end, and they don't get to where they want because of that kind of thing.
Well, I think it can be there's many variations, but I think that at some point though, if you are masking that issue, masking is a good word to use here, because in neurodiversity terms as well, or just as a personal trauma, it will bite you in the end. It will come out, and how it comes out can be quite unpleasant for you, in terms of either health or actually what actually happens to you as a person. And so as much as you can keep up and carry on, because you will eventually come to a point where you cannot actually carry on. So as much as the other camp is people who are sort of going along and it's kind of slowing them down, and they haven't dealt with it, but they do deal with it rather than just put it into a corner and then it literally take them out in a serious way. I think there are various ways that it can play out, and none of them are particularly helpful if you're not prepared to sort of confront them and do what needs to be done. I think that sweeping them under the carpet just never helps, because as I found myself with burnout and mental health issues, at the end of the day, you basically will break down, you can't control it, and it's better for you to actually not get to the point where, how I like to term it is your body takes you out. You don't want to come to that stage, and ultimately the final consequence of that would be your own demise. Nobody wants that.
No, definitely do not want to be the master of your own demise, do they? Now, you've got the neurodiversity angle on it now. What things do you do slightly differently if it's a neurodiverse person versus, say, somebody who's neurotypical, I guess?
I think it's really about being, understanding, and also asking them how is it that they want to communicate, or how is it that they are seeing the world, and what's their perspective. Because one thing that I am really a fan of, and in fact was something that was shared with me recently by a large company, was they said basically one neurodiverse person is one neurodiverse person. And to me, that is brilliant, because that means we are different, we're unique. We may have some, common experiences, but ultimately every experience is unique and valid. I think that's really brilliant. And again, that's would tie into my approach. I am curious. I want to find out, how it is that they are experiencing, what is it they're experiencing, and how is that presenting, and like getting their sort of like feedback and their take, and then understanding from them like how can we best like work together, and how can we sort of like come to a place where we're both like happy with the way that we are able to sort of like communicate and sort of understand each other, because sometimes there are a lot of different things it takes to help people to kind of like thrive and to understand them, and it's taking that time. Sometimes, asking those questions, which they may not necessarily want to talk about in the first instance, but it's about reassuring them that, this is not about judgment. It's literally about trying to be able to be on the same page so that,
Yeah. And I think maybe some people probably come to you in neurodiversity is the anchor that they think is holding them back in a career. And I guess good coaching through that really helps as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that one of the things that I've been discovering as I've been talking to people about university is about, disclosure, whether you should disclose or not disclose, or come out or not come out.
Yes.
It is one of those things, and I think that it's quite a interesting conversation, and one that is, I used to say double-edged, but now I say many-edged, because like it's quite complicated. And I think, again, like as I said just a minute ago, like it is about unique circumstances, and for you to kind of like really understand like what kind of environment that you're in, and are you in the kind of environment that is mature enough or has the capability to support you being your own authentic self, and is able to sort of help you to and wants to help you to be successful as exactly who you are. And then there are other environments where they are like not ready and they're not willing, and then we have to be sort of discerning about us deciding that if we have to be in those environments, how are we then going to help ourselves outside of those environments, whether that's being in networking groups, whether that's listening to podcasts, whether that's reading books, whether that's getting coaching, whatever it is. But then how are you then providing your own support, because you're not going to be getting it in the workplace?
Yes. I think you're right there, isn't it? Yeah, identifying a good neurodiversity support network is quite a valid and strong tool. And you are right with whether it's an external thing like a podcast or a book or whatever, because the internal place at your company is not really helping. But yeah, a very good point there, using external resources if needed. Okay, well, I'm going to start winding this podcast up. And what happens at the end of every episode of this podcast is that I have 3 rapid fire questions I like to ask each guest. They are rapid fire from me, but don't need rapid fire answers from yourself. So let's dive into question number 1. What prejudice have you had about dyslexia that's been proven wrong?
That dyslexic people lack intelligence and will never climb to the top.
Yes, that is a very wrong thought by some people. Okay, second question is, if an alien landed and asked you what dyslexia was, how would you describe it to them?
Okay. So I would say that it is more than just having difficulty with reading or spelling. It could also be about short-term memory. It could also be around, sequencing and, letters and numbers. Gosh, I would say that it has more facets than just, not being able to read or spell. I think it is a combination of some of the things that I have described.
Yes. And okay, the final question of the podcast. You've seen this is called the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. What is your favorite dyslexia life hack?
So I would say making sure that we enable the spell check everywhere, because sometimes you think that you have it enabled and then it is not.
Yep, you made that mistake. Excellent. Okay, well, before we sign off, where can people find you, and is there anything else you'd like to add?
Great. Yes, they can find me on LinkedIn. So that is my name. That's Ekua. That's Ekua, and the surname is Cant.
Okay, excellent. I will link all that in the show notes. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on this podcast. It's been a really fun conversation. And I want to thank everybody else for listening, and I will see everybody in the next episode. Goodbye for now.